Welcome to the Health Daily Show. I'm your host, Chitra Nabat, and joining us today is Kevin Ryan, founder and CEO of AlleyCorp. Kevin, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Kevin, tell us about AlleyCorp and what's unique and different about your firm and investing approach.
Sure. So I started AlleyCorp about 15 years ago, and we do two things. The primary thing we're most well known for is starting companies from scratch. So every year now, we're up to about 8 companies a year. We come up with the idea in-house, recruit the team, fund the company, and go out there and help them be successful. And that can take many, many years. My first companies, as you mentioned, are things like MongoDB, Guild, a lot of other ones that I've worked in the past. And so I have a team that does that. The second thing we do is we're an early stage investor. So we also will write lead rounds, very early stage, first check-in, $1 to $3 million check generally. And so we've invested in about 100 companies over time, and we've started almost 30 companies.
MongoDB, Business Insider, Guild, Zola. These are category creation in a nonlinear way, so much so that these companies form the blueprint for many variations of business models and companies that have come since. Take us into your innovation and company creation kitchen. How do you identify that problem, develop the thesis, assemble the ingredients, and launch?
So the thing we spend the most time on is thinking about problems we can solve, but with a 10-year time perspective. So when we have an offsite, we put up 2032. And you have to be thinking, if you have an idea, I'm going to ask you, is this going to be a problem in 2032? If you said COVID, I don't know if this is going to be a problem in 2032. So I'm not going to bet long term on that. But things that I started in the past were fundamental problems that were not going away, that it takes a long time to build a company. And so we really focus, for example, we never do a financial model, which sounds crazy, because it's all about the product. We're just thinking, what are consumers telling us that they can't find, they can't get, it's too expensive, some problem there. And do we have a solution for that? And we'll do a deep dive into multiple areas, and sometimes we don't have an idea. And then sometimes we'll have an idea and think, yes, we figured something out there. And each one of those cases, I knew the fundamental problem in wedding registries, that if I was at Bloomingdale's, or if you were at Bloomingdale's, I could only get you products for your kitchen or products for your living room. I couldn't get you Knicks tickets. I couldn't get you a wine bottle, because those are things that they didn't sell. I couldn't get you a tent. I couldn't get you yoga classes. And so I could solve that, and that's what has made Zola successful.
So where does pattern recognition come in, even in that? Because you create companies not only in one industry or area, MongoDB, Business Insider, Guild, Zola, and others. These are different industries, different problem sets, different way that companies engage with their customer and who their customer is.
And all those companies are different than my first company, DoubleClick, where I was for 9 years in ad technology. So I actually think that the pattern you see in many, certainly consumer internet companies, is actually the founder is someone who comes from the startup world, but not from this sector. So we're the founders of Airbnb from the hotel industry. No. We're the founders of many of the retail fashion companies from the fashion industry. No. It's actually someone who came from outside and had a new perspective and said, wait a second, why are they doing it this way? And one of the things I have to learn, like when I had the idea for Business Insider, I asked a bunch of people, and a bunch of people said, yeah, I don't have the right business site that I want. When I asked people who worked at the Wall Street Journal, who in theory were so close to this problem and knew it, they hated the idea. They were too close and they thought, no, people don't want what you want, they want what we have, which is the Wall Street Journal. And they didn't see what they weren't doing. And that's so I think it's fine to come in from outside.
How does this pattern recognition shift or translate when it comes to the companies that you actually invest in? What are the attributes, the metrics that you look for that cause you to say, yep, I'm going to write that check?
It's actually the same, because at the end of the day, whether you're starting something or whether you're investing in something, you're really just looking at two things. You're looking at the idea and the team, and they're equally important. Now, sometimes we start with an idea, we go get the team. Sometimes a team comes with an idea already. But we're looking at the same thing. Is this really a problem? Do consumers really feel a pain point? And is there a real vision to solve something? And are these people good? Because, by the way, many ideas adapt over time. Some completely pivot, some just adapt slightly, and that's fine. But you need someone who's going to be looking and hearing their customers. After you launch, sometimes you're like, you know what? We thought it'd be really going this way, but it's going to be a little bit more that way. because that's what people are telling us. And you've got to hear that and listen and adapt to it. So that's it, team and idea.
So on the team side, you talk about people who are listening, hearing, seeing their customers. Are there other attributes you look for in the team, in the CEO and the founder?
Really important, and more so in the last 5 years than ever, someone who can attract other people to work for them. So we're never going to work with someone unless we've done reference checks to see what they were like in their old company or old companies. Because you can come in here, and if it turns out that you're just kind of a jerk to work with, even though you might be smart, no one's going to come work with you in this economy. They have other choices. And so that it's so competitive for people that I need someone who can get great people, bring them in, and keep them. That's all there is in a company, is people.
You talked about solving problems and problems that are going to exist 10 years out, right? So what are the next horizons of problem sets that you're looking at where you're contemplating creating companies?
Fertility is an area where 5% of the births in some countries in Europe are already enabled births. We're only at 1.5%. People are getting married later. So there's just no question that the fertility market broadly will grow dramatically over the next 10 years. That's one example. I started a company in psychedelics area. I'm very deep in, both in the nonprofit space and the for-profit space. I have 2 investments. I started one company and I'm looking at other things. I'm convinced that that's going to be a multi-billion dollar industry 10 years from now. Because mental health is a big issue and it's the best thing we have to date. Healthcare is a big area and a lot happening in many areas of deep science. Nanotechnology, which pervades everything. Material science, many interesting things happening there. Robotics, big, we do a lot. We did 5 investments in robotics this year and we'll easily do 5 next year as well.
Kevin, let's talk a little bit about leadership. In career business life, there are rules, norms, codes to how things are done. Where have you been a code breaker in your career and your life journey, and how did you do it?
So I think the fundamental structure of AlleyCorp is actually something that almost was not done 10 years ago. When I told people in Silicon Valley I'm going to start 4 companies this year, they'd say, no, you can't do that. Also, if it's not the real founder vision day one, it'll never work. And that's just not true. Mongo's worth $12 billion. It's run by a CEO who joined 5 years in. We've done this multiple times. When I interviewed 6 people for the CEO of Business Insider, met Henry Blodgett. He was amazing. He deserves all the credit, even though it was my original idea, but he's still there today, by the way, 15 years later, and has been a superstar. So you can find people who can do it. So that's one good example of doing that. I didn't raise outside money to date. I've only self-funded everything I've done because I want to have control over that. I can do some things that other VC firms can't do. I overinvest in people, and I am much more operational. So almost no VC firm has 50 engineers who work for them. I have that. I have an entire staff that can be a source of engineers for my companies when I start something. So we do a bunch of things that are very different than the rest of the industry.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.